Hi everyone, Ollie here and welcome back to another one of my end of the week diary video roundup things. As you may be aware, this is actually going live on Monday instead of Sunday because I recorded this yesterday on Sunday night, as I normally would. Messed up my audio export from my microphone, so I had the video but no audio and it was completely unsalvageable. So it was like 11:30 at night by that time, and I decided I didn't want to try again. So here we are, attempt number 2. So last Monday, a week ago now, we basically just spent prepping for the OSCEs. Different people had them on different days, so both my housemates on the medic course had theirs on the Tuesday, mine were on the Wednesday, so we all decided it would be a good use of the time just to spend the Monday going over our notes and practicing on one another. I went back into town. If you remember, it was really snowy and slushy in Leamington last weekend, but I needed to pick up a parcel, which I actually managed to do this time, which was important. You'll see why later in this video. And I picked up some Christmas bits and bobs, some gifts for my friends. I got the Lynx Africa box set, the Christmas gift that every man doesn't want to receive but receives anyway. And Africa in our household is a bit of a meme now, so it seemed like a good gift. I should specify the song by Toto, not the continent. On Monday as well, I also submitted my first reflection. Now, we are required to submit reflections. It's one of the things we're stipulated to do. So in order to be able to sit the summative exam at the end of the year and move on into the second year, there are a number of other tasks that you have to do. Things like engaging with all the formatives is one of them, and submitting reflections when you're asked to is another part of that. So if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't be eligible to sit the exam, and I think that probably would have been it. I'm not too sure on the consequences otherwise. But anyway, mine was on, well, everyone's was on. The most important thing I've learned about myself, I think, as a medical student since starting at Warwick Medical School. And I've talked about this a lot before, but my main reflective point was that I think before, and I still do this to an extent, but I tended to fetishize technical skill, perhaps over being a well-rounded individual, and basically seeing the patients in community taught me that the effects of social care and social support in your life are so important when it comes to having meaningful quality of life. That's the thing, really, is that's a good way to illustrate it. I think you could have like the best surgeon or the best technology, radiotherapy, whatever, helping you through a problem, but if you're not properly supported when you come out of hospital, your quality of life could be awful. And that's the goal, is not just like biological health, but quality of life overall. Otherwise, what's the point? So on Tuesday, I decided to go into uni with my two housemates just to support them. They were a bit nervous about the OSCEs, so I went in with them, and I thought it would be a good chance to revise as well, because I get out of the house, go somewhere else, I'm more likely to work. So I did that. Lots of people coming out throughout the day having done theirs, and feedback was actually really good. Everyone was saying, you know, once you get in there, it's actually really enjoyable. I wasn't sure at the time, obviously still being quite nervous about my own, but my housemates both seemed pretty okay with how they'd done. I think they both hold themselves to quite high standards, and that shows, but I'm sure they did perfectly fine. From what I saw from when they were practicing on me, I felt like I was in very good, very competent hands. I also brought the parcel that I needed to collect in with me, because it was actually the second part of our group's Christmas gift for our CBL facilitator. She was a big Harry Potter fan, so the other part of the present, we already gave her some stuff at our Secret Santa Christmas party session, but we also got a colour changing mug, one of those temperature sensitive ones, so this one became the Marauder's map from Harry Potter when you fill it up with water, and she seemed really happy about that. And after we'd done that, people were pretty much finished for the day, so one of my very kind CBL mates who just had her OSCE offered me a lift back to Leamington, and I felt really kind of bad because it was out of her way to take me essentially in the opposite direction from where she needed to go. So in exchange, I said, let's go to Coffee Architects, the best coffee house in Leamington, for some coffee and a cake. So we went. That was really enjoyable. Again, this will be important. So, Wednesday, I actually had my mock OSCE. I talked about this in my OSCE reflections video that I did on the day, which I recommend you watch. But an OSCE, Objective Structured Clinical Examination. So healthcare professionals, including doctors, are required to be able to perform particular clinical skills, things like taking patient histories, carrying out physical exams, or I guess giving injections, things like that obviously couldn't really be assessed through a typical exam. So you have these objective structured clinical examinations. So we'd be given a task to do. You then have to go into a room and carry out the task while being assessed by an examiner that knows how to do it properly. Then you'd receive feedback and move on. And this is how the university in this case was testing how well we'd learned to do these particular exams. And again, I really enjoyed it. I was very nervous before going in, but it was a very good chance to get like honest feedback on your performance from an examiner. They were all really, really nice, very understanding and very constructive with their feedback. So I can't go into detail about what we did, obviously, because that would kind of break the rules. But my feedback generally was that my approach to solving clinical scenarios was very structured, which I'm happy about because I spent some time rewriting the order in which you do certain things in physical exams. So I rewrote them into an order that made more sense for me, so I was less likely to forget things. And the other major thing was that I appear at least to have good patient rapport, which again is something that I would want, I think, in my doctor, so I'm pleased to hear that. In terms of things to work on, I did miss some things, just completely like fumbled over and forgot to do them. But the point about that, and I actually feel pretty good because the mistakes I made were not academic, if that makes sense. I knew, like, if they'd asked me why I was doing anything that I was doing, I'd be able to answer, because the real turning point for me in learning how to do these clinical processes is learning why you do what you're doing, not just learning a script. I find that actually quite difficult, but having the knowledge underneath really helps me. And I would have been able to answer anything. I simply, because of nerves, forgot to do tiny little bits, and I don't feel that bad about that, because even if I'd had like 3 days more to practice, I still think I would have made the same mistakes. So actually I'm okay. It was good to get used to the format. It was a very new thing for all of us, and I actually really enjoyed it. So the OSCE experience, or at least the mock OSCE one, yeah, good, we'll do it again. So to celebrate everyone having finished their OSCEs, because I was in the final slot on the second of 2 days, so the very last bunch of students to go through, we went to Coffee Architects, as you do, second time in a week, and then we went to a couple of house parties in Coventry kind of through the evening, and then at midnight Wednesday evening, even going into Thursday morning, we actually made the midnight launch of Star Wars The Last Jedi, which I really, really recommend. It's really early in the days of the film's release, so I don't want to say anything for fear of spoiling, but it's very, very good. I really enjoyed it. Go and see it. And we were actually given our Christmas presents by the medical school on that day, which consist of, I'm trying to think of a way you'll see this, our new clinical skills books, we've finished one, and our anatomy book, and our new anatomy book for block 3 as well, which is neuro, and apparently the hardest one of the year, so that's exciting. So I just had to get up to go and let the cat out of my bedroom, so as you may have noticed, I'm in a different surrounding. I'm actually back home now. So on Thursday, our first kind of day off, we actually went to Birmingham to go and have a look at the Christmas market. Birmingham, I think, is twinned with Frankfurt, I want to say. So every year they have this German-themed Christmas market with lots of chocolate and beer and meat, everything you would want really in a market. And it was really, really pretty, very tastefully done. Birmingham was about an hour's drive away from Leamington. We decided to drive rather than go on the train. And it was really, really nice. And then in the evening, we went to a course mate of ours that actually lives in central Birmingham, and we played board games for about 4 hours, which was also really nice just to unwind. And I say board games for 4 hours, that's kind of misleading. Well, I suppose there were plural games, but we spent about maybe 40 minutes playing a game called Spyfall, a sort of limited knowledge game, not too dissimilar to something like Mafia, Werewolf, or Secret Hitler, one of those kind of limited knowledge things. And then I think the next like 3.5 hours or something playing Settlers of Catan. So actually, I suppose, keeping with the German theme, I'm pretty sure Settlers of Catan is a German design board game. It's a sort of resource trading thing. You're trying to all colonize an island as quickly as you can, and trying to assemble structures and things. If you've never played Settlers of Catan, I really recommend it, but again, it's one of those kind of friendship destroying things, so watch out for that. On Friday, I did absolutely nothing. It was really good. I did nothing related to medical school. I watched a few hours of TV. I caught up with a few more episodes of that Junior Doctors Blood, Sweat and Tears, one of the most recent Junior Doctors TV series, and I've written before that I didn't immediately warm to all the characters. I found some of them quite annoying, but actually I've been thinking about it a bit, and the patients that they interact with, the characters are a little bit larger than life in some cases, and that sort of annoyed me. I was like, just get on and do your job. But actually the patients that they interact with do seem to really like it, and it's nice to think that when we all qualify, obviously fingers crossed, that we'll be able to have a bit of personality with the way we do things, rather than needing to kind of fit into the system and become some sort of faceless drone. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but given that medicine seems to be so person-centered, and I mean person-centered healthcare, I think that's really important, actually, to come across as genuine and have a bit of interesting quality to you. We also, me and my housemate, spent another few hours playing video games. As you do, we were playing Mario Kart, Mario Party, and a thing that I've really wanted to play for some time called Cuphead, which is very good. It's a platformer, sort of run and gun game in the style of something like Mega Man, but it's done in the art style of like a 1930s cartoon, and it's all hand-drawn animation, and it looks exactly like an old cartoon. I'll have some footage on screen now. It's very, very good fun, very hard, but really enjoyable. On Saturday, I actually went into Coventry. This time I went through to meet a friend that I met at a conference a few weeks ago. I wrote in my blog that I attended the Becoming a Doctor conference, because I know the guy who runs it quite well, and there I ended up speaking as part of the talk on graduate entry medicine. I wasn't expecting to speak, but then was asked to, so I did, and because there weren't that many people there, and I met a guy there who we kind of kept in contact over Twitter, but then it turned out that he was the friend of the girlfriend of one of my best friends from when I was studying in Newcastle. And he actually lives in Coventry, so we said, you know, let's come and have a catch up and talk about how things are going in medical applications. And they're like, and it was really, really good. He was telling me, and I think this is really interesting. So he does medical sciences at Exeter, and if you do medical sciences and you're on track to receive a 2-1 or a first, they will give you the chance. I think you can go straight to interview for their 5-year medicine course when you finish, without having to take the GAMSAT at all, which they would normally ask for. So I think actually that's the sort of thing that I might start recommending to people if they're wanting to do medicine after a first degree. I mean, not having to take the GAMSAT for a thing sounds like quite a good bonus. As far as I know, Exeter doesn't have a 4-year course yet. I'm actually expecting, and I've not got much evidence to base this off, but I think we will start to see more 4-year courses, accelerated programs pop up around the UK over the next 5 or 6 years, just to meet the increasing demand for doctors. And then on Sunday, again, hopefully you might have seen it in the blog, but I came home. So I live in kind of rural North Yorkshire, about 3.5 hours away from Warwick, towards the northeast coast. So you might have heard of like Scarborough, Whitby. I'm in that general area. And it's been really, really nice, actually. I've only been back, a full day. It's the end of Monday today, but just not being near the med school was really nice. I've started doing work. Actually, I'm working. I started working on the anatomy booklet today and looking at the anatomy of spinal vertebra, which I really enjoy. It's just like anatomy, I love to death. I could just sit, well, I do just sit and look at diagrams for hours and try and redraw them. I was doing that all afternoon today, and I think it should help. But it's just a chance to unwind, eat well. My cats and my dog are both here, so it's been really, really lovely to see them, my two brothers. And I'm looking forward to catching up with my friends that I went to school with, because we'll all be home for the holidays. So it's currently the 19th? No, it's the 18th today, Monday the 18th, and I'm going to go back on the 3rd of January, either the 2nd or the 3rd. So I've got a couple of weeks at home, then another week, and then I will start tuition again. So I've got plenty of work to do. Speaking of which, you may have seen that I did a video recently about offering people practice interviews. Engagement has been so good. It's going to be a lot of work, I think, so my plan, just to elaborate a bit more on what it is I'm going to be doing, I'm going to try and approximate a 50 to 60 minute interview for either MMI or panel interview style unis, depending on what you ask for. So I've said to people, just message me through my website or on here or on Twitter or something, and I've been making like an appointment list. So I'm emailing people privately, and we'll work out a time that suits us both. So I'm actually going to be starting those tomorrow. I'm really excited to meet some of you, at least through the medium of video. And the other thing I want to say is that some people have been asking me for Warwick specific interview prep. There are a few reasons. I don't want to run afoul of the university. I'm really grateful and happy to be at Warwick. I don't want to do anything that could endanger that. Secondly, obviously, if people interfere by giving inside information into the interview process, that then affects the selection process, which could potentially jeopardize people in the future if the right candidates aren't chosen. So if I provide interview advice, and I'm very careful to do this, it's always generic. It's either panel preparation or generic MMI preparation. When people have asked, they say, can I have some Warwick format specific advice? I always say just prepare for Warwick as you would prepare for any MMI university, which obviously is what I did. When I share advice, it's always how I prepared for my Warwick one, but obviously since I didn't know what the format was going to be, I just prepared based on the advice I could find elsewhere. I'm actually going to make a separate video for the channel probably just after I finish filming this, because I think it's an important point that I do need to address more clearly. But I'm really, really grateful for the engagement that you guys have shown. People are so motivated, and it's really heartwarming actually. I remember, you know, how nervous and desperate I was during the application process. I hated it. But when I got to my interview at Warwick, I actually really enjoyed it. I felt good, and obviously I've ended up studying there. And I hope that that'll happen for many more of you. So that's where I'm going to wrap this video up, guys. I've just heard the church about down that way strike midnight, so that probably is a good wrapping up point. Thanks so much for watching. As always, please be sure to hit that like button for me if you can. Leave a comment on the video and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. And don't forget to go and check out PostGradMedic.com for more free interview advice. There'll soon be medical student resources on there. Lots of useful bits and bobs. Take care, guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.